You want to fight crime? Let's get dangerous.
And here I am. We are here. It is a couple of days before Christmas, and there's going to be a couple of things that we need to talk about here. And it might be a shortened show on top of that. So let's sit back, relax, and get everything started by saying, welcome on in. I'm Joe D. McPhee. I'm the host of this show called From the Desk of a Small Press Publisher. And we're going to get right into the business end of things here by letting you guys know a few things, such as stupid o'clock happening 1 hour into our show. That's if we go that far here. I'm not saying if we're going to go past the 1 hour mark. That depends on you, the viewing audience, as a whole here. But nevertheless, we got Last Man Standing that happens after stupid o'clock at 1 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Did you get your respite until Monday morning, where you have Nicholas Tockert with Nevermind the Furthermore? And let us not forget, you get a 2 weeks vacation from Comic Book Spectrum. We will not be back, I believe, until I want to say January 8th. I believe that is the next Thursday after all the holidays here. So you got a 2 weeks vacation. So there will be no Comic Book Spectrum next week because it's Christmas, and it would not be a New Year's Day Comic Book Spectrum because New Year's Day happened to fall on a Thursday. So you got a 2 weeks vacation away from Comic Book Spectrum, but it should be back January 8th at 7 p.m. Central Standard Time, 8 p.m. Eastern. So on that note, let's go ahead. I see we got some chat things here. Yep, I know that you hear Merry Fishmas. Yep, Fishmas. I'm surprised it's not Festivus. Oh, yeah. Yep. I don't want a vacation from CBS. Huh. Double hump. Well, you have to understand that Cliff and Elaine also have other things that they need to do. Like Elaine, she has to make, a Christmas dinner and maybe even a New Year's dinner. We don't know. And Cliff has stuff to do with his family. But that brings us to one of the questions here before we get into new comic book pickups for the week, because, one of the traditions that we have here is normally like New Year's Eve or Christmas Day or, Christmas Eve. I might do a special where we just hang out and play video games or whatever, while streaming and just hang out with you guys here. So if you guys want me to do that, either Christmas Day, New Year's Eve, or something to that magnitude, go ahead and let me know here. Yeah, they need to entertain me. I'm cute. Well, you need to take it up with them. You need to, it's like you just need to have your mom up here, kind of use her persuasive ways on the Book of Faces to get them to do a special beanie show for this upcoming Christmas and New Year's Day. But nevertheless, it's going to be, we're going to be away for 2 weeks as far as the overall show is concerned here, as far as Comic Book Spectrum. But as always, there is new comic book pickups for the week, and we're going to do it live. It's not Memorex this time around, because why? I could not go to storage. Again, the weather is getting better, but it's not good enough where I could go to storage and be there for like hours at a time without freezing to death. So, on that note, we got just a tiny little stack of books here that we're going to show, and hopefully you guys enjoy here. Does not enjoy clean shaven. What do you mean clean? Oh, it's not clean shaven because I still got hair. It's not all, ragamuffin. It's not ragamuffin, but it's trimmed. Not ragamuffin, but I still have it. It's still there. So the first book that we got, which is completes this run of the series here, I finally got my Venom Lethal Protector number 5. So I finally got that. So that completes my run of Venom Lethal Protector here. So, and that brings us to getting a True Believers copy of Giant Size number 1, which makes me wonder, it's like how many different versions of Giant Size X-Men 1 are out there. And with all the ones that I do have, why do I still feel the need to actually have an original one? I don't know. It's just weird in that aspect here. And this kind of makes me feel a little bit better because now I think I got most of volume 4 of Uncanny X-Men. So I'm going back and getting the newer X-Men. These are the Uncanny X-Men that most people, thumb their nose at. These are more the modern ones here. I still don't have the latest run. I just told the people who pull my books to start pulling the newer ones for the current series. But we got issue 2, issue 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I believe this is an 8, a 9, and a 10. So it's only a handful that is still missing from that run. But that is almost complete. I got another copy of X-Men 18. And the funny book here, we got DC's The New Golden Age number 1, the one shot here. I've kind of found that this might be interesting only because it's a one shot, just to see what's going in there. Oh, a beanie size stacky. That's a beanie size stack. So Beanie been buying a lot of books then. This is a beanie size stack. So see, where do we left off? Oh yeah, we did the Golden Age. Then we got New Mutants number 79. And then I'm not certain which volume this is, but this is Powerpuff Girls number 6. I got another Dollar Comics version of Batman Adventures number 12. I ended up getting an all new Wolverine number 18. Some Laura Kinney love. Web of Spider-Man number 2, which I never had here. Not in the photo with the suit. And oh, she's spoiled. Oh, okay. I know that. So we got another Dazzler 13. So we got Dazzler facing off with the original incarnation of the Grapplers. This is the very first incarnation of the Grapplers with the very first Titania, who is not Mary McPherson that everybody up here knows about. This is the original Titania that has nothing to do with the She-Hulk character. So if y'all guys know your history, Titania has nothing to do with the She-Hulk series. It wasn't until Mary McPherson became the second one in Secret Wars that we have the Titania that we know and love today. Do your homework. Read some books. We got the facsimile of Fantastic Four 52. So this is kind of like a placeholder for first Black Panther. I got another 289 here. I forgot why I got this here. I just know that there was something special within this issue here. Not really a key per se, but there was something special that happened in that issue. We got another copy of Max #2 to kind of be like a more or less of an upgrade. She said, no one likes Kool-Aid Man Titania. And then we got another copy of Heroes for Hope starring the X-Men. So we got another copy of that. And then we got a must-haves Uncanny Avengers #1. Oh, well, I shouldn't say Uncanny Avengers #1, but this is Marvel must-have. I forgot which number. I believe it's like #2 or something like that. And yes, Marvel must-haves is an actual title that actually have different issues here. They're saying, this one is Uncanny Avengers 1, Captain America 3, and Daredevil #2 for 2024. Now this one was thrown in for free. This was called Songs of the Siren. So I have no idea what's in that. I haven't really read it, but I know with black covers, I have to be careful. And it is a black and white comic book. It's in black and white. So I haven't read it yet. It was thrown in here. And then we got another one that was thrown in called The Score Book 1. And this is more like watercolor, painted watercolor type stuff. So, books that I don't know of, have no clue what they're in there. So I'm not going to pull the Randaz. It's like, I don't know what it is, $5. I'm not going to do that. Got another copy of the Young Animals version of Doom Patrol #4. Another copy of Classic X-Men #10. We got, I believe this is volume 3 of Angel and the Ape. This is the vertical version of it. This is from volume 3 of Angel and the Ape here. That's another series that I'm slowly trying to collect here. This is Doom Patrol. I did not realize that one had a price sticker on it. I am going to do it now. I'm going to see if I can do this without having to have the lemon juice and everything. This is going to be a meticulous surgery. And you guys get to witness it here on the show live. We're going to do some surgery and see if we can save this cover, because I don't believe in the lemon juice thing and all this other stuff, which, if you don't do it right, could damage the cover itself. But I am slowly but surely. This is meticulous work without really trying to yank. And that's the key thing about taking these so-called price stickers off. You can't just yank them off, because if you yank them off, you have a good possibility of ruining the cover. Now, granted, more modern comics now have better paper as compared to back in the day. But for some reason, back in the day books, it seems like it's easier to pull these things off without damaging the cover. Voila, surgery successful. It was right there. It was right there. I still have some adhesive right there. I have to figure out how to get that off a little bit later. I might use magic eraser to get that off, but we got that off of here. We got a Magneto 16. We got another copy of JLA Classified #11. We got Tangent Comics Doom Patrol. And I believe I remember when these came out here. I forgot how DC created the imprint of Tangent, but I forgot how that happened. But I got a couple of these type of Tangent books in my collection here. I was able to finally find a Dan Jurgens version of the Doom Patrol. It's like the first one I did was Amazing Spider-Man 36, the 9/11 issue. Yeah, that I have Girlfriends. I have a couple more. I have a couple more Tangent books. I just it's like off the top of my head, I just can't remember. And the last book that came in this week is another copy of Poison Elves #1 from Volume 2. Yeah, I'll probably have to do that. I'll probably have to do that in a minute here. I don't have the heat gun right there. There it is. Yeah, I have to get a little bit of heat because there's still residue on here. Okay, but we got it mostly off here. So that is this week's comic books pickups for the week. That covers all of those books here. Next weekend, I think we're going to have a whole bunch of books depending on how people send out their stuff here. They had Calvin. Yeah, I remember that. I remember the Calvin Ellis Superman. I remember it was one that was Girl Frenzy, one that had a Donna Troy. I remember the Superman. It was a whole bunch of them, but they were like all one shots, short lived one shots that, they came and they went and they disappeared. It's just weird. It's just so weird. Yeah, Batgirl was another one. Oh, you got all of them. Only got a handful of them. Only got a handful of them because I wasn't into every DC title at that time. So like the Superman would have never interest me, but things like the Girl Frenzy did, the Donna Troy one did. I thought about the Batgirl one. Doom Patrol was the one that I was looking for because nobody had that when it first came out. So now I finally got it. But it is what it is here. So that is new comic book pickups for the week here. So as far as updates and accountability here, I did not work. Well, I can't say I did not work on Primetime Saturday Night. Technically, I did. I did not finish any new pages because I kind of jumped ship for a bit and started 2 pages into one of the other stories for the upcoming issue #4 of Legends of the Giant Slayer. So I started doing that here only because the release of #1 is coming soon here. And like I said, I want to get enough issues of that done and ready where I don't have to think about it anymore. It's like I can, if I have like right now I have 3 already, and if I release them, boom, 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 one right after another, like in a monthly basis, that cuts down my time to get any other issues done. But if I slow down the pace here, it's like if I'm able to get like this issue 4 done and it maybe an issue 5, as well as the issue #6 of Primetime Saturday Night done, I have a little bit more wiggle room to do a issue 7 and to finish up issue 8 of Amazonia type stuff here. So that's what I've been working on this week, and then I've been trying to map out the graphics that's going to be sent out to those on the mailing list for this Christmas here. So yes, for those who are on my mailing list, you guys know what I'm talking about. I send the Christmas graphics for Amazonia and Primetime Saturday Night I am debating whether or not the Amazonian one is going to be hand drawn or done in Dodge Studio, but the Dodge Studio one for primetime Saturday night is still going to be Dodge Studio. I got something in mind for that here for this year's Christmas greeting graphic that you could have. I should say Christmas wallpaper is kind of like, my Christmas gift to those who've been following not only this show but the comic books in general. So with that in mind, I'm just trying to think what else am I missing here. No, I think that's pretty much all the updates and everything that's going to happen, which means that we want to get into tonight's topic, which is unexpected returns and further adventures in comics. Well, I had kind of like who is Tangent Troy? And the Tangent Troy actually made more sense than who is Donna Troy. I like Tangent Troy. But getting to the unexpected returns here, I got kind of like a little bit of a scare that came to me via email today. I got an email from Whatnot talking about, oh yeah, we had this buyer who bought this from you that was complaining, and you haven't sent out a label or anything like that, or done this, and you kind of in violation of this. I was like, what do you mean? I never received a notification for a sale, and lo and behold, I had a sale that came in over the 15th. And I was like, man, why did I wait so long? Or no, not wait so long. Why did I get a notification until now? It's like I saw it via email. So I went out there and I began to understand why I didn't get notification, because it's from a international buyer. The good thing about it is I don't have to worry about the shipping costs of this. But they bought my set of Hulk Volume 3, a full set of 1 through 11. So I was happy about that. So I packed that up today and everything. But it kind of made me think here. It's like, with everything that's been going on in the Christmas holidays, if it wasn't for me catching that email today, I probably would have never known about the sale and everything, and Whatnot would have been pissed off at me and revoked my privileges to sell on Whatnot from that point forward. So it is kind of like one of those weird things. Even though I haven't been doing live Whatnot shows here, it goes to show that people are up there looking at my bin or the internal store that they have to buy the books that I have listed there. And when I get those type of sales, it kind of blesses me more so than anything. It kind of renew my spirit as far as creating and selling books here. Not necessarily because it's not my books, but it's just the simple fact that they are comic book readers who are not looking for the same stereotypical, it's kind of like my Grail, or it's that epic, that epic it book that people are speculating on. I rarely get people, a lot of books in their hands, such as full runs of series, such as Hulk Volume 3. I mean, it did, like it kind of blessed my heart. It actually added a little bit more money in my pocket in the long run, but they got a good deal on it, except for the shipping on it. The shipping is ridiculous. I saw how much they're willing to pay for shipping to go overseas. So we want to see how this turns out and everything, and we're going to go from there. But nevertheless, we got everything packed up and ready to go. And there is Aaron here. He's saying, "Sell, baby, sell." It's like it's not even really selling at this point. It's like I just got the store open up and people are perusing it. Not everybody is, looking for, the stereotypical Spider-Man, Batman, Superman. I mean, I got a lot of Wonder Woman stuff, a lot of She-Hulk stuff, a lot of odds and end type stuff. And the more I go through the books that I got right now, it's like, I have been known to give away like full runs of like the first volume of Amazon's Attack, full volumes of different titles, because that's how many copies I have here. sell you books. I end up giving you more books than anything else. And you still didn't give me a list as of yet. Speaking of which, so the only thing that I have as of right now is still your Film Force One. You're supposed to be giving me a list. And heck, it's like you really didn't even give me a Wonder Woman list. That is not volume one type stuff. And you going around, buying all of these books. I don't know if they're like, you know, if it's all well and done, it's like shoot trade, or it's like if it is extra, it is extra. I'll be like here, I don't mind. Yeah, good job with the store. But that's pretty much what's going on here. It just makes me think about, what else that I need to do to really sell more stuff. Well, not really sell more stuff, but get people to pay attention to what I do. I mean, at least I tried to put my best foot forward with some of the newer stuff that we got here. You know, we now got foils. I think this is prime time. That's prime time Saturday night number 5, and both of these are Amazonian number 7 foils. I still got a couple more sketch covers to get graded. Like these are going to get graded within the next couple of months. And I got a box back there of all the stuff that came back graded for commission artwork and custom covers. And I have full sets of series out there in the Whatnot store for my stuff. But they sit, but people want the more Batman, Superman stuff here. So it's not like I'm not trying to do work here. And Merry Christmas to you. And as of right now, like I said, I already put it out there. It's like it's up to you guys. If you guys want me to do like a Christmas Day show or Christmas Eve or New Year's Eve show, that it is what it is here. Yeah, foils are fun here. Foils are very fun. The bad thing about this one here, these got to get reprinted, and so does some of the prime time Saturday night number 5s because there's errors. There are like pages in some of these that did not have actual text. So we got some error books here. I did make the people who are on my mailing list aware of it, that if you already bought one, we are willing to replace it. At least I am willing to replace it free of charge once we get the newer ones in. Well, Comic Book Spectrum was taking 2 weeks off. I'm not. The Saturday show is not. The Saturday show has been one of the more consistent things that, we haven't missed a Saturday. Even if I'm at a convention, especially out of town conventions, I still pop on to do maybe like a half hour to an hour show nonetheless. So Saturdays is like, we take no time off on Saturdays. And I believe the one time when we had Christmas and New Year's on a Saturday, I still did a show. That this is one of the few shows that we will at least try to be here each and every Saturday to talk to you guys each and every week here. Yeah, video gaming. Yep. We try to have some type of fun. We're not always talking about what it's like to create comic books, or the drama that is out there and collecting here. Yep, he got mad at him. Mad at me for a whole entire year. She was on contract. She was letting me have it too. And then she messed up. She didn't renew the contract. She didn't renew the contract, and I was free. That's a good buy. The preview, that's a good buy, because I know for a fact people are charging good money for the preview books for Kingdom Come. Like Jiro Zod is Superman 2. Yep. But nevertheless, that's what's going on and what's kind of been perplexing me as of right now. You know, everybody else is talking about doom and gloom as far as collecting is concerned, as far as getting things encapsulated and all this other stuff. And like it's like CGC should not have raised their prices. Like, why not? They're matching what their competitor is, and then now people are talking about how PSA just bought CBCS. And what's weird is that on their two websites, there's no news about one person purchasing the other. So it makes me wonder. It makes me wonder how they're going to deal with this. Will CBCS stay on as their own entity, at least until they fulfill their allotment of books that was sent into them? And if so, and this is one of the things that I would suggest, if you trust the system more so than anything else, I would be sending my books into CBCS right now, because if you don't, you're going to pay the PSA markup. PSA charges a lot more money than what Beckett was charging up on the CBCS. So if I was smart, get your submissions into CBCS before they do the PSA markup and go to the PSA grading pricing scale. That's the thing. I'm not certain how it's going to work out. If it's a buyout, that means if it's a buyout, CBCS is no more. They're going to probably end up shutting it down. If it's a merger, then eventually the CBCS pricing and everything is going to slowly go over to the PSA, and they're probably just going to have one grading outfit. Yeah, they bought Beckett. PSA bought Beckett, not CBCS. They bought Beckett itself. So that's the thing. I don't know if it's a complete buyout of Beckett or if it is just a merger between PSA and Beckett. But PSA bought Beckett, not just CBCS. They bought all of Beckett. So all of the other grading that Beckett does and all of the authentication that Beckett does, PSA has now. That's the key. That's the key thing here. And that's what makes it weird. And you know what? Since you made mention of that, let me do that here. Because technically the CBCS site would not have something like that, but the Beckett website would. That's the key thing here. News. Nope, there's nothing out here up under the Beckett website, up under their news side here. And I'm going to try to show you guys this real quick here. It's like Beckett is known for trading cards, just like PSA is. So this is what makes it even more interesting as we go along, about how people always complaining about different stuff, but never really seeing the bigger picture. I mean, if you guys really don't like CGC, there was a CBCS, but y'all complained about CBCS not, or at least those that played the investor game always was complaining that CBCS book does not fetch the same type of money out there on eBay. That's not the purpose of why CBCS was encapsulating it. it's supposed to be a better encapsulation service in one way or another. But this is their news site here, and they're talking more about the cars and the new releases, but nothing about the merger as of yet. And it's weird that there's no press release about the actual merger itself from any one of those companies so far. Just very, very weird. Like I said, I just find it interesting but weird at the same time here, that nothing is really out there on either one of these company sites as far as a press release. However, PSA saying, there's a high demand and estimated turnaround. There's an estimated turnaround problem as of right now. So they're saying it's like we're seeing a high demand for authentication and grading service in 2025. We are grateful of your continued trust and patience. We are actively working to improve our estimated turnaround times and keep you informed and set clear expectations here. But beyond that, for PSA and just to keep everything above board, I don't want to like be reading something and not be able to back up what I'm talking about. This is what they have on their site, but they don't have anything press release related from either company's side talking about what's going on. But we have seen enough people make mention that PSA had bought out Beckett. So I'm trying to get that. Aaron was saying I was stuck in traffic yesterday and I needed to wrap gifts. Cool. So as long as you had tape in the car, you should be able to wrap a few presents, but I wouldn't be doing it while driving. I probably would have pulled over to the side, wrapped the presents and waited for traffic to die down. But it is what it is in that aspect here. But it's interesting. It's just more or less interesting here, because usually something to that end would have some type of press release. While even ESPN actually had a news article about this. That's strange. See, now this is getting me even more curious. It's like curiouser and curiouser. This is the ESPN website, and the reason why I brought up ESPN is because Beckett is really known for sports cards grading. PSA also does sports cards grading. They were direct competitors here. Us in the comic book game, we're up here as like, well, Beckett owns CBCS. PSA now went into the comic book aspect of things and now is supposed to be, quote unquote, the equivalent of CGC, but yet I don't see it as of yet. I see those who are so PSA that I believe that they're blinded by judgment, because if CGC was so bad, why didn't you just go to Beckett? Why didn't you just go to EGS or one of the other companies? And each and every time I bring that up, it's like, well, those books don't sell as much as a CGC book. But that has nothing to do with anything. If you're going to complain about a company, you have to complain about the company about why their encapsulation process is inferior. If you don't have a problem with their encapsulation process, then why are you complaining? Then PSA hits the thing, and then you have people jumping for joy. And I'm going like, why am I going to be jumping for joy for somebody that are known to do cards as opposed to comics? That they have not been shown to do comics well. This is like their first foray into it. So I'm looking at let's take a look at their slabs. Let's see how well their slabs do to books over time, which means maybe now we could get a better aspect of what their slabs really do. Not from a financial aspect as far as resale, but from a protection aspect as far as UV fading and other possible damage from their well. But that's the key thing here. But getting back to what I was saying about ESPN, they're up here, talking about the card aspect. It's like, yeah, PSA bought their rival Beckett because Beckett was doing cards. It said Professional Sports Authority, parent company of collectors, purchased Beckett, longtime rival in the card grading and authentication industry. Monetary terms of the deal not made as of yet. In a statement, collectors noted that Beckett will remain an independent brand within the collectors family of really, and there would be no changes in pricing. What? Okay. Only reason I got silent with that here is mainly because, and let me bring this to a full screen, because now my business mind is churning. When I see a statement like that, they're trying to avoid monopoly claim. They really trying to avoid a monopoly claim at that point. The monopoly claim would be mainly for card grading, not necessarily for comic book grading and encapsulation, but for card grading, they might be teeter-tottering on that monopoly level type deal here. When I read a statement like that, they're up under our umbrella, but they're going to be their own independent brand with no price changing. Just think about that for a second. In one aspect, if you really, want to look at it as a cutthroat business aspect, you buy your rival, you keep them operating, but you cheapen their branding and status. Now, when it comes to comic book grading, not so much. But when it comes to the cards, it makes you wonder, with this change, how much would a Jordan rookie card would now sell with a CBCS graded encapsulation as opposed to a PSA now? Even though they're one and the same company, but they have it up under two branding. They were once rivals. Now there's no competition because one company owns it. They're giving the illusion of competition because they're saying that Beckett is still going to be its own Beckett branding. But it still falls up under one umbrella. I believe that this is a monopoly power play type deal to fly up under the radar of that. But I could be very, very wrong here. Yeah, wish I cared about preserving comics. Maybe I do that when my sister moves out and I could get display room. Yeah, maybe so. I'm like I say, I'm more about preservation than everything got to be slab. No, I'm not into the whole reselling of slabs for resale either. To me, that's more of a personal choice as far as protecting and buying whatever you like here. But now I'm beginning to understand why ESPN might have this thing here. The first card I ever submitted for grading to Beckett, I considered collectors custodians of the important icon in this hobby. Collectors CEO Nat, it's spelled Nat, but I think it is Nate without the E. Nat Turner said in a statement, we're believing that strong, well-supported brands help grow access to the hobby. No, you're trying to say that you're not creating a monopoly. That's what you're pretty much saying. Beckett, founded in 1979 by Dr. James Beckett, became prominent in the 1980s and 90s for its price guides and became the leader in the grading space for sports cards, not for anything else. For sports cards, they did that. It was sold last a year to Collectivist Holdings, which sold it to collectors. Really? So they're saying that Beckett technically got bought last year. Beckett is in good hands with collectors team. We are first and foremost hobbyists and fans. Collectivist Holdings CEO Kevin Isaacson said in a statement, we appreciate the commitment to the Beckett brand and their willingness to invest in the people who make it valuable. We look forward to seeing Beckett continue to build its own legacy into the next chapter. But the thing about it is that he's still up under the bigger umbrella. It's not like you're dismantling PSA. You're not dismantling PSA. You're really controlling both entities. Collectors is controlling both entities now. So it's just weird. According to Jim Ray, a card industry grading data tracker, Beckett is a distant third in market share. That's interesting. Of the more than 650,000 items graded in the last year, PSA accounted for more than 75% here. The graders CGC account for the last over 18, and then Beckett is only at 3. That's some interesting numbers for the card collecting side. That's some interesting numbers there to really pay attention to. That's some interesting numbers. So they're saying PSA has 75% of the market, CGC had 18, and Beckett had 3. Early in 2024, collectors acquired fourth place. See, that's why I say SGC. So collectors have PSA, SGC, as well as now Beckett. You see why I'm getting more concerned about the whole monopoly claim? They're buying too much. Beckett, however, is renowned for its stringent grading standards and substantial footprint and standing in the authentication space. And that's it. That's all that they have here. Now they're going into something else, but that's what they're saying here, which is interesting. Yeah, people slab DVDs now. Yep. They slab VHS tapes, they slab DVDs, they slab video games, they slab audio tapes, they slab vinyl records, they slab movie posters. A lot of stuff can be slabbed. Yeah, they aired the Hershey Kisses Xmas commercial where the ringing of the bells wish you a Merry Christmas. Yep. Again, when we look at monopoly claim, you can have 12 12,000 different companies, but you have to look at market share. What collectors just did, which collectors just did, if collectors by itself had 75%, Beckett had 3. Your only competition that is left is CGC, because everybody else is pretty much, they're doing what they're doing here. They're doing their own thing, which is never a good in the bigger scheme of things here. Even with 12,000 different companies being out there, if let's say 11,000 of those companies make up less than 1%, that's a monopoly. There's not an equal foothold for everybody at that point. And you kind of make it to the point where it's awfully hard for them to get a greater share of that market. That's pretty much where I was going with the claim about, so they're keeping Beckett around as their own entity to avoid the claiming of being a monopoly in that aspect, because they're manipulating the market share. Yeah, they all suck. Only PSA, JSA, and Beckett are good. Yeah, I know, but they do it. Especially the sealed ones that could have the wrong tape inside of the box, or the tape could be literally covered with mold. Yep. I know a guy that sells 9.8, so he gets more slabs. Yeah, the whole 9.8 thing, don't get me started with that here. It's like Monsanto owning, yeah. Monsanto have all these different food companies up under these different brandings, but it still falls up under Monsanto. And this is one of the things that people don't realize. It's like, but we have this brand, that brand, but the parent company is still Monsanto. Monsanto has, a big portion of the market share when it comes to foods across the board. The same thing is beginning to happen with PSA. And it's very imperative for them to say that Beckett is going to operate still independently, because they want to give the illusion that it's not a monopoly, that they didn't buy it out to absorb into PSA. And that's the weird thing about it. I want to slap everything and sell, baby, sell. Nah, you don't want that life. You don't want that life. That's a tough life. If you really want to do it, I would say talk to Brian Gordon over there at Bry's Comics. That's what he does for a living. It's not an easy thing. It's not an easy thing to start, but once you have your clientele set in, it becomes bearable. But I just find that business aspect interesting here, that, like I said, none of the websites has the press release about this. But yet all these other news sites, so-called news sites, are talking about it, and they got statements and all these other things here dealing with this so-called purchase. But it makes you wonder. It makes you wonder a little bit. It makes you think. Is it a bad thing? Probably not. But like I said before, my major concern is more along the lines of the monopoly tag. Did they buy this company, getting a bigger share of the overall market for grading? They just didn't buy any grading company. They bought a established, well-known well sought after grading company. So it makes you wonder. And it also makes you wonder about some of the other stuff here because they bought Beckett, which means that they also have CBCS. If they're still being independent of one, if PSA is still being independent of, if Beckett is still being independent of PSA, like I said earlier, if I had my choice, send your stuff to CBCS. You saw in the article, they're not changing their pricing. They're not changing much of anything. So why are you going to pay the markup? Why are you going to pay the PSA markup at that point? Send your stuff to CBCS. May take a little bit longer to get your stuff here. You're still getting the same Beckett quality. You might not be getting the PSA type sturdy slab, but you're saving money. In the long run, you're feeding the same people's pockets. It's still all going to collectors. That's enough covering the news here. That to me is kind of depressing. I need something better to talk about here. Something that makes people happy. Unrespected. I was like, what if they reboot Marvel, then focus on the stories? That would be a good thing. But again, here's the problem with that. Marvel is still going to be up under the Disney umbrella. The Disney umbrella does not look at, or at least their marketing department. Again, when they bought Marvel, they're saying Marvel going to operate on its separate, on its own merits and all this other stuff, and they're going to have their own management. And they're going to operate independent from us. Only thing I can say is just like the old school Tom and Jerry cartoon, don't you believe it? Because their shareholders are going to be looking at that bottom line as far as how much profit that they're going to be making. Their marketers are not going to allow them to focus on stories. The only way that that's going to happen is you're going to have to get some of the best writers, and they're going to have to get back to selling back to like the, almost like the 1990s, 1980s standards where, books were doing somewhere about 250,000 to like 500,000 copies a month. I don't see that happening. I still see this trend about people caring about art and everything being a poor man's art gallery when it comes to all of these variant covers and all these weird collectible. And like I said, this is why one of the reasons why last week it's like the collectible title messing up things. Because when you apply that collectible status to comics, it makes it kind of like a niche item which can fall out of phase. Every fad has its time in the sun, and then once that fad is over with, it dies. Comics are not a medium that truly dies, but if you treat it as a collectible item, the greater majority of the people who makes it mainstream will leave it alone once they get priced out of it. And that's the biggest problem with that here. What if they Marvelize Disney characters and bring them into the fold? Not going to happen. It will be the other way around before that happens. It would definitely be the other way around before that happens. It would be Disney taking over Spider-Man and having a Spider-Man the musical, the movie, type deal, which nobody wants to have happen. Nobody wants to have that happen. And then on top of that, let's look at those variant covers that they did for Spider-Man using all of those Disney characters. Did they really do well? Not so much. Did it send people in confusion? Because we saw Mickey Mouse, doing the whole first one of the first Iron Man covers, and it turns out the book is a Spider-Man book. You confused the heck out of readers in that aspect here. You didn't confuse the people who were collectible collectors, but as far as comic book readers, you got Mickey Mouse in an Iron Man suit, and you expecting this, read an Iron Man story because Mickey Mouse is Iron Man, and you turn it and you open it up as a Spider-Man story. You just kind of spy on your face of people who read. The same thing with the Incredible Hulk Goofy, which I thought was an excellent idea. Goofy being the Incredible Hulk, but you didn't put it on an Incredible Hulk book. You put it on a Spider-Man book. So you see Goofy as the Incredible Hulk, you open it up thinking that it's going to be an Incredible Hulk story, and you read Spider-Man. One or two things here. It goes to show you how bad the Spider-Man stories were during that time. And two, it goes to show you how many people who are cover collectors that are now out there as far as people who actually read. Because cover collectors would buy it just for the simple fact of the cover. They have it. It's nostalgic for them. And those who are quick flippers, they will grab it, try to flip it as quick as possible before the bubble bursts on it. But I wouldn't do that per se as a whole in that aspect here. The marketers shall allow the good stories and just focus on the movies for the money, not to suggest that moviegoers would care, but they won't. Marketeers can't afford it. They can't afford actual IPs, or in this case, I would say IPs. So such as Spider-Man. Let's use Spider-Man as an example as the IP. They cannot afford waiting for a good story to market the book, because of the simple fact that it really depends on the readership, and the marketeers don't know the readership like that. When they do their focus groups, they want to focus more so on people who are potential buyers, more so than people who are already in. So when they do their focus group, it's like, oh, what do you think about Spider-Man comic books? It's like, are you a reader? If they say yes to that, they're going to put your results over here in this other bucket. If you're not, then they're going to have all these other questions to try to get you to buy a Spider-Man comic book, banking on everything else but the story itself. For a person like you and I, who are in this other bucket over here, the marketeer is like, well, we kind of got you already. What will make you stay? And a lot of times we keep telling them better stories, better stories, better stories, better stories. And they're not hearing us, because the people over here who are not comic book readers are up here. Oh, we want him to look like this. Oh, I want more representation of this type of people or that type of people. Oh, we want, more, something that makes me want to go out there and buy it and collect it. Over there, not talking about stories because they don't read them. The story does not appeal to those who are not buying comics to get them into the fold. This is one of the reasons why I always state that We need to stop allowing these marketers to dictate to the people who do not read what they should be looking for. We, the readers, should be guiding newer people into this, telling them why we like these stories and where we can and where they should get them. We, the readers, need to be doing that aspect, not the marketers. Because if we leave it up to the marketers, you see what happens. They're gearing everything more towards the movies. They're gearing everything more towards the animation. They're not caring about the books itself. This is one of the reasons why they get, I hate to say it, Joe Blow writer from anywhere to create a story, knowing good and well the story might be subpar or lackluster, but they're banking their money off of a lot of the hotter artists on that cover to sell the book, which hurts the feelings of people like you and me who are readers, but trying to gain those who do not read, who may pay that extra markup for that one book. But the problem with doing that type of marketing is that one-time sale does not make money. This is why they treat Spider-Man, like in our example, this is why they treat Spider-Man as a IP to market for other mediums. They look at Peter Parker as, oh, let's try to make a musical out of it. Let's try to make more movies out of it. Let's try to make TV shows out of it. Let's make more cartoons. Hey, let's even try to make a rap video. Because they're not concentrating on what made the IP what it is anymore. And it's sad. Because when you get to that higher level at Disney, they're looking at what's going to make them money. Granted, they have all of this Mickey Mouse memorabilia out there. But when was the last time that you've seen a true Mickey Mouse movie? It's been a while. They don't have any more Mickey Mouse movies. They don't even have any really Mickey Mouse cartoons anymore. I believe they barely have a actual ongoing Mickey Mouse Club now. I think they stopped running Mickey Mouse Club even on the Disney Channel. It's not about individual characters. It's about where they're taking the IP. And you have to think about it. Back in the day, there was Mickey Mouse cartoons, movies, comic books, lunch boxes. There was Mickey all over the place. Not so much today because of the simple fact that you still have the theme parks and Mickey shows up there and he's still selling the Mickey Mouse memorabilia and everything. But you don't have really the Mickey Mouse comic books that are coming out brand new. Those are gone away because, again, the higher ups saw that there's no money up in it. We're not getting brand new Mickey Mouse movies. I don't know why. Maybe there's no good idea to use Mickey Mouse to make a movie. Just don't know. But saying all that to say here is really, it comes back down to the marketeers. The marketeers are looking more so to get people who have not heard of the IP to buy than listening to those who are already buying and participating. They're putting us in a completely separate bucket, but yet they're pushing ideas to grab new people. And it's sad. It's sad to understand that, but also in the same aspect, IPs need to grow. And if you run out of ideas to make an IP grow, it kind of falls into that category until somebody comes with that next brand new idea that could bring new people in for it to be reestablished. Yeah, I remember that Tom King tried to do that, but that makes me believe that Tom King was, pretty much is not the writer that he claims to be. He's more of like one of these favorite marketers type of writer. Oh, I go to write to check boxes for people who may not read comics, as opposed to those who have been longtime readers who are looking for great story. This is one of the reasons why he is hit or miss at this point. This is one of the reasons why those who are longtime Wonder Woman fans is hating his guts. But at the same time, and I always preface this, as much as I don't like what he's doing, I applaud the fact that he got newer people reading Wonder Woman. My greatest fear is once he leaves, do these people leave Wonder Woman? Because Wonder Woman is not going to be what Tom King writes once he leaves this title. I have a sneaky suspicion she's going to go back to the way that she was, or more akin to what they're doing in Absolute Wonder Woman again. But that's just me. But he is a prime example of what current marketeers doing now. Tom King is writing for those who may not be longtime fans to try to bring them into the fold. Do I like everything that he writes? No. Do I like some of the stuff that he writes? Sure. I like what he did with Mr. Miracle. I like what he did with a couple of other titles. I hated what he did with Danger Street. I don't like what he's doing with Wonder Woman, even though I still collect it. I'm not really liking it. But what I do like about it is that he's getting people in the seats to read Wonder Woman. That has been one of my key things that I've been saying here from the Deso Small Press Publisher here. As a creator, you always want people to read your stuff and like it and keep new people coming in. Now, is his take on Wonder Woman the best that has ever been? Not so much. But I do appreciate that new people are reading, for we could at least establish a dialogue about why I like what was done before compared to what he's doing, and vice versa. I'm not gonna knock a Tom King Wonder Woman fan for not liking the older stuff. That's far from my mind. But I would want to understand why they like Wonder Woman now as opposed to back then. That's my key thing here. It's like we have to have a sharing of ideas, and we have to come to an agreement about that Wonder Woman is cool no matter what, whether if you like the Tom King stuff or not. Our middle ground is Wonder Woman is cool, and we go from there. But anyway, that's kind of like the whole ball of wax right there. It may not be, the further adventures of where we're going from here. And like I said before, DC and people, it's like I made mention to this for people too. It's like DCKO is going to reboot the DC universe, but I think I'm not certain if it's going to reboot the Absolute universe or the main universe as of yet. But DCKO is going to reboot something. Okay, somebody's moving something upstairs. I was just trying to figure out what was going on here. But nevertheless, DCKO is going to reboot something again. And we're going to go through another reboot at DC. And that's going to be another pain in the rear. But we live and learn. We can't control what marketers do for our favorite titles. That's one thing that we can't control, because again, we don't get to see the data that they're looking at. We know what we see from our own fandom. And that's a different aspect altogether about what we see versus what data that they have here. That data that they have, like I stated in the example, is usually from people who normally do not read comics on a consistent basis. They might be fans of the IP, but they're not constant readers. This is one of the reasons why they don't focus on story all that much, where they should. But then again, modern day marketers probably don't know how to market on story. It kind of is what it is here. Yeah, DC reboots now every 4 to 5 years, and it's sad. And it's even what's even more sad is that the concept of an ongoing series has gone the way of the dodo. Everything is a short series or a maxi series. And if it is an ongoing series, they do it all the way up to a major event and then it gets rebooted. There's no such thing as an ongoing series because marketeers always want a starting point for people to get in on. Instead of saying, hey, we're about to do this XYZ story here that starts with issue number 85, making 85 a starting point for new readers. If you didn't get on that issue 85, and the next great story comes along, which is issue 101, highlight 101 as the starting point. This is one of the reasons why I miss ongoing series, because with ongoing series, you could point out a storyline and say that storyline starts here, and that is a jumping on point. You may not get all the history, but to bring a new person in to a brand new story, there's always a starting point for that story, and you bring them in there. Marketers don't want to do that anymore. And it's sad that you have to reboot the series, almost retell the origin again to bring them into whatever canon that's going to be done for the next great big story, which is stupid. Exactly. I agree with you there, Parallax. I agree with that as a whole here. Yeah, pretty much like that. But at least you know where the starting point is at. You can read that storyline, and if you like what they did, you continue on. If you don't, you could come back. You could fall off of it. And if you want to delve back into it, it would probably be more or less a storyline that you wanted to read, and you come back in on that new storyline point. But the thing about it is, with the way that they're marketing comics and creating comics nowadays, everything is a mini series, maxi series, or it just get rebooted after a major event. There's no such thing as an ongoing series anymore. Matter of fact, I'm going to use this X-Men book, for example, this X-Men 3. That's the reason why they have right down there the so-called legacy number, because of the simple fact that they can't make this, they don't want X-Men to be an ongoing series. So they say, oh, this is issue number 3, but technically it is issue 622. If it was ongoing, it was issue 622. So why can't you just say at issue 622 we have X-Men Disassemble Part 3? That's all you had to do. This technically it should have been 622. But again, this will be a starting point for this storyline. But no, marketeers don't know how to deal with that to get people in where they're supposed to fit in. Doing it based upon the ongoing series aspect here. Oh, it's the 3rd issue of volume 3 of X-Men, because why we have to reboot it, because it's a brand new storyline. brand new aspect, a brand new volume to get new people up in here. But if they was concentrating on stories, they wouldn't have to worry about volumes. They wouldn't have to worry about all this other stuff. They can still do their maxi series. They can still do their mini series because that wouldn't affect the overall continuity for the ongoing series. But this constant rebooting and then trying to bring in new people after the reboot because of the simple fact that you don't want to have storyline points to be like, here's your starting point for new readers would now be this because this is the new story coming in. It's a flawed aspect of the marketing that we have to deal with as of right now. And DC got bored with the layout. Yeah, maybe they did. But then again, maybe that is one of the indicative type problems that happen after a certain individual became editor in chief. Now, mind you, I have been on record to say that a certain company back in the 90s started something that they wasn't ready for. Granted, they had a lot of great artwork that was there for that time, but they were not the best of writers by no means. By no means. And what they did in their books up under that imprint was something to behold, but it didn't really make great stories. It wasn't until the second incarnation of that imprint where we started to get things such as Walking Dead, Sex Criminals, Saga, and all of these other major storylines that people started to truly follow and love. And all of a sudden they started, getting Eisner Award after Eisner Award after Eisner Awards that the imprint actually reached where they were trying to go back in the 90s, which they couldn't do originally. Just saying. Just putting it out there. The person who's running DC right now that people love, and trust me, his artwork is the stuff. It's the stuff. I'm not knocking his ability. But I'm just saying, he left, he started a company to go against the grain of format for that time. That type of stuff sticks. That stuff does not go away. And yeah, I can see why. I also see the other thing about everything from DC getting grittier and grittier and grittier for no apparent reason. I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, Parallax. I just recently said on Granddad's claim sale, or was it here, that was one of the things that I kind of wish Darwin Cook was still alive. That was one of the things that he said it was wrong with modern comics back in the early 2000s. We got too gritty, too cynical, where none of the characters are being inspirational anymore. You don't see heroes smiling and having fun and being able to let their hair down from time to time. You don't get that in books anymore. Everything is grim, gritty, and too close and too grounded in reality for people to not have a true escape or have something to inspire to, or to be inspired to be better. And this has nothing to do with, with moral signaling or political stance or anything like that. The older comics did what they did for a reason. As we got to the 90s, it moved away from that. By the time we get to like the early 2000s, he saw it. He saw the writing on the wall. This is one of the reasons why he did New Frontier the way that he did. This is one of the reasons why, he picked up before he died, he picked up the pen and took up the mantle of Will Eisner's spirit, because it fits what he loved about comics. But that's just the thing here. Now, said individual that I was talking about that came from said company is Jim Lee. I don't have anything bad to really say about Jim Lee as far as an artist is concerned. But I do take a look back as far as what Image was when they first founded it, and how much they changed the game when it comes to layout and formatting for comic pages, comic interior pages. That type of stuff just don't go away as a one-time experiment, especially after the success that they had when they first founded the company. Now, the second incarnation of Image reached greater heights because of the simple fact that they finally got writers to elevate the story game to the next level. But what the original founders did still remains. He's been an editor-in-chief over at DC for how long? We talk a lot about Dan DiDio, but when it comes down to the bottom line here, Jim Lee has been there throughout that whole entire time in the background. And coming back to Aaron's comment here, yeah, they got bored. They got bored and they weren't seeing the sales. They kept getting grittier. They were reboot, and they get more grittier for the next incarnation. Or they will try to mess around with graphic format, and people kind of hated it. Perfect example was like the New 52. The New 52 run of Wonder Woman in the very beginning. People hated the artwork. The story was there, but people hated the artwork, and it was just weird that the artwork matched what the story was going. But because people had Wonder Woman, got so used to, if I could say it in this aspect, we went from what we had in Volume 1 to George Perez, followed up by John Byrne. Then we had combinations of Adam Hughes and a few other people, to Terry and Rachel Dotson into New 52. Yeah, we kind of got spoiled, but nobody really paid attention to what the story demanded, because they got so distracted because of the actual interior artwork. It's kind of messed up. Do I fault the artwork for low Wonder Woman sales? No. I fault individuals' preferences more so than anything. And yeah, some of the cover artwork was not the best thing compared to what they was doing in Flash and what they was doing with Batman and all the other stuff. I'm not going to say that some of the stuff was not appealing, but one of the things I do believe in is that the artwork has to match the story and vice versa. And when those two things do mesh, I just have to question, is like, are we really poo-pooing on it because of our own personal preference, or are we really taking the story for what it really was? Yeah, even though you agree with Wonder Woman being like a killer because of the her soldier mentality. Yeah, even though you agree with Wonder Woman being a killer. Again, Wonder Woman mentality is more along the lines like this. She is not she knows that she's not above killing anybody. But that's her last ditch option. Her last ditch option is to kill. Unlike Batman and Superman, who are like, I really try not to kill anybody. I'm going to try my best not to kill anybody. She's up here is like, if you put me in a catch-22 where I have to save the entire world by killing you, I will kill you. But I will try every opportunity to talk you down before I do it. That was the key thing about Maxwell Lord. This is one of the reasons why there was no Wonder Woman outcry about, oh, she killed somebody and this, that, and the other. But it was more like, this is one of the reasons why I don't like characters like Batman and Superman. Because they would try to take the moral high ground. It's like, oh, Diana, you should have never killed them, this, that, and the other. It's like, says who? I had no other choice. You guys up here is like, oh, I'm going to find the perfect solution. And your perfect solution comes with other problems which cause other people harm. Superman had killed universes before. Batman had accidentally killed people before. Nobody tried to take moral high ground from any other Justice League member. Nobody tried to take moral high ground on them. She did what she had to do, and then they tried to take the moral high ground. She didn't even try to run away from it. She got arrested. She did, she went through the whole trial and everything. But yet, a lot of the male characters that were around her tried to take the moral high ground on her, which was wrong. But we don't talk about that as far as comic book readers per se, in the aspect that we need to talk about it. Everybody's like, oh, well, Wonder Woman is a killer. It's like, no, she's not really a killer per se. It's like her last ditch effort. She's not above it. And she would tell you, I'm not above for killing you. I'm not above taking your life. But she would choose not to if you allow her. She won't take your life if you allow her not to take your life. Which means that you have to be well beyond redemption before she takes your life, or put her in a catch-22 where it becomes obvious that you are not going to change your heart. That's a big difference. Cliff Chang was not the right artist for Wonder Woman. The Hades underworld stuff was top notch by him. See, I don't disagree with that. But I always tell people the story was grade A in the run. Yeah, exactly. Justice League, a League of One is another example. And again, the way that she had to trick Superman to stay out of it, only for Superman to come back to her, taking, oh, the moral high ground. You should have let us help you. You didn't have to take on this all by yourself and this, that, and the other, and blah, 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 blah. Diana turned around and said, let's look at the situation as a whole. If you were in my shoes, you would have did the exact same thing, would you have not? Superman looked at her, it's like, and thought about it, it's like, you know what? You're probably right. I probably would have done it. So why was it wrong for me to do what I did? I saved the people who I cared about. I knew what was going to happen. If I would have let you in on it, you would have gotten hurt. I did the right thing. Kal-El had to back down. Everybody loves to try to take that moral high ground on Diana, knowing good and well Diana is right. But and I believe Parallax would say this. Most people did not read A League of One. That book is, I wouldn't say it's inspirational, but it shows you the side of Wonder Woman that most people don't get to see on a consistent basis, because everybody thinks that, oh, Wonder Woman is being dirty, well, she's being this and she's being that. It's like, no. When Wonder Woman sees things for what it is and has a plan, she's going to activate that plan. It's going to be awfully hard to talk her out of it unless she sees that you saw something that she missed. In this case, in the League of One, this was again a catch-22 situation. She knew that the rest of the league would have gotten her way, because there was no way for them to be able to defend themselves against the enemy that she had to face alone. Everybody forgets about Superman literally was out to kill Doomsday, to say, yeah. And this is the other thing about that. Superman wanted to literally kill Doomsday. But who held her own against Doomsday for the longest until Superman was able to fight? I can't hear you in the back row. I can't hear you. It was Diana. Diana fought Doomsday to the point where she was willing to die on the battlefield just to give Superman enough time to figure out what he was going to do. Superman didn't talk her out of facing Doomsday by herself. And it was more than one time that she faced Doomsday heads up to get people out of harm's way and to save it. But in that last battle, just before Superman tried to kill him, Diana almost was ready to stand ground to fight him to the death. Exactly. Everybody needs to realize he's an alien that does not truly understand human mentality. And don't get me started on that. Hashtag give me more. Shoot. Give me more of Bruce's father. Hashtag give me more of Bruce's father. I'm tired of Bruce. Bruce is not. Hashtag prep time my ass. This is one of the reasons why I love Batman the Animated Series. Whenever Batman could get his butt whooped by the Clock King, only because of knowing how people would operate and function. And the only reason why Clock King lost is because of a "we said so" in the animated series. Clock King literally called the fight straight down the line. Straight down the line. Every move that Bruce was going to do in its timing. And the fight ended up with him losing because it's like, oh yeah, this is where you're going to throw a punch and you don't have enough time to do that. That's why I'm going to throw this kick. And you think Clock King would have never figured out that you could possibly throw a kick? Really? Really? I'm sorry. You know, we say so as we say so, but you know, as a kid or as a teenager, you don't really think about that in depth aspect of it. He literally called everything in that fight about how he fought. every move, every type of strike. It is like, okay, fine, I will counter with this. You're going to do this, that, or the other. I'm going to counter with this, that, and the other because it takes this, that, or the other time. This many seconds to do for you to do this, and this. Would give me enough time to do. Bam! I got you. And Batman is like, yeah, prep time. It's like Clock King. It's like you have prep time against Clock King, and Clock King was up here giving you the business. And the only reason you won is like, okay, fine. Instead of throwing a punch, now I'm going to throw a kick. You think Clock King would have figured that out too? Sorry. It is what it is here. I can sell Batman comics to you guys. And if you did, I'd probably just be like, okay, fine. Either give it away or put it out there on whatnot or something like that for other people to buy it. I don't care. If it's not Thomas Wayne, I don't care. Thomas Wayne Batman, great. I like him. Bruce Wayne, even Damian, it just didn't set well. At least with Thomas understood that frail nature between good and bad, because he skirted that fine line between being the good husband and doctor and being part of Gotham's underground, with dealing with the mafia and the Falcones and the Marconis and all the other people. He understood that fine line that he had to tread. Bruce, on the other hand, is just like, I was rich enough and spoiled enough where I befriended the commissioner who deputized me. And now I could go out here doing this vigilanteism without any true circumstances from the Gotham City PD. To me, that's a little bit unrealistic. That's why I said, give me Thomas Wayne all day. Bruce does not do anything for me. Non-UFO building. Okay, you probably have to explain why you have to add the non-UFO, but I know what his tagline is, but why non-UFO? I'll build it someday. Oh, she's talking about the toy. I get it up in my display room someday. Yep. Thank you. Yeah, it's like Sword in the Stone. Yep. Mommy, why it's like, why is it called Sword in the Stone when it's an animal? Well, because in the Disney movie they made it like an animal. In British folklore, it was literally a rock, a actually big boulder of stone that the sword sets in. So you have to blame Disney for that. Yes, that's a blame Disney moment. Beanie, that's up there as blame Disney for what was the name of the song? What was the name of the song that they did about it? If we're not supposed to be talking about Bruno, why are we singing about it? I remember you saying something to that magnitude. If we're not supposed to mention Bruno, why are we singing about it? So it's like, yeah, I'd rather deal with endometriosis than read anything Damian. Yeah. Batman can lead Alpha Flight. Oh my goodness. I know he has that. I just remembered about the toy that you was talking about, the UFO toy. And Bean was like, build it. Yeah, she's like talking about the Disney movies. Blame Canada. Blame Canada. Wait. South Park was not Disney. South Park was not Disney. And I like the Blame Canada song from South Park the movie, from the Terrence and Phillips fiasco that they was trying to get canceled with all the fart jokes and everything. Blame Canada, blame Canada. Yeah, if we're not supposed to talk about Bruno, why is everybody singing about him? She makes a good point. Yeah, I was like, that's a great point. That I mean, Disney stories do stupid stuff like that. Sword in the stone. The sword is in an anvil instead of an actual stone. It's just silly. That's why I kind of like the movie Excalibur the best, because they actually showed you why the sword in the stone actually came to be, because of Arthur's father, Uthor. Uthor, in a fit of rage about how the subjects and how the kingdom was about to get ready to fail. It's like nobody can have rights and privileges to the sword that kept Camelot from being taken, and slammed it down. That's like, the person who takes over from me will only be able to wield this. I could, but she's going to tear it up anyway. She probably, have a shredder just like one that I have over here. Just put it in a shredder and be like done with. But then again, but then again, Bruce would be no different than James Hudson in a way. That's why Heather was so much better as leader. James was too much of a Batman type, was too much of a jerk. If it's Thomas Wayne Batman, that I might actually make happen here. No, but that's what I just said. If it's Bruce, it's like Bruce and James Hudson was pretty much almost kind of like alike. Here it is, snapper car. I do it in a snap. Snapper car. I do have an original Batman piece on Bristol board. Cool. Yeah, Batman would be a part of Logan's backstory. Then yes, Bruce. If Bruce was over there, in Alpha Flight, and this would probably be the only time I would applaud for Wolverine falling in love with Heather the way that he did. And it's like, yeah, it's like Heather did not need to be with a jerk like that, and Bruce being over there, be like, I don't got time for love and this, that, and the other. I got to plan out our next strategy for this, and this. It's like, that's your wife. She's kind of been like in your corner all this time, taking, and like I said, both him and James were very abusive. Luckily, Heather was strong enough to get past it. Oh, that's the reason why you love it, because it's his work. So that means Catwoman must be in it. Yeah, Thomas Wayne was kidnapped to help with the Weapon X project. Yep. Well, not really that. Thomas Wayne would go into Canada because they stole some of his research to expound on the Weapon X project. People keep forgetting Thomas Wayne was a doctor, a legitimate doctor. So he probably had some research information that the Canadian government took from him, stole from him, or had one of their other departments confiscate from him. He goes into his Batman persona to find out what's going on, and then he's like, "Oh, they're about to use my technology to create Wolverine. Okay, this is not a good thing." No, it's just Batman. That's true. They wouldn't capture Thomas because Thomas would figure out a way to turn the tables on him. That's the one thing that I loved about Flashpoint. Everybody kept underestimating Thomas. While in regular continuity, everybody would try to figure out, it's like, well, Batman always had the best laid plan, so we have to figure out what Batman is thinking. Thomas would be like, with Thomas, they're up there like, oh yeah, Thomas really doesn't care. So if he shows up, we have to figure out what's the angle. And a lot of times the angle is, I'm going to turn people against one another where I could walk away unscathed with whatever I needed from you. Yeah, it's gorgeous. Batman bleeding from his nose and mouth, and has his blood on his glove. Okay, cool. It's ready for inking by a badass cover artist. Cool. See, now you need to sketch that story. Haha. But it's Thomas Wayne, not Bruce. That's a major difference. Hashtag Thomas Wayne is the best Batman ever. That's one of the reasons why I, with Flashpoint Beyond, that's one of the things that made me kind of sort of happy towards the end of it, because the bottom line here is that Bruce actually understood what his father was and what Thomas really wanted him to do. Thomas really did not want Bruce to be Batman per se, but he wanted him to be his own man. And he was proud of the fact that Bruce became his own man, but he was not as happy with him taking up the mantle of Batman. It's almost kind of like, one of those things. It's like, if I was still living, you would never have to get your hands soiled. He kind of saw the whole things of sins of the father. It's like, you found out about all my underhanded dealings with all these unscrupulous people, and you had the wrong take of what was going on. You saw them as 100% evil, as opposed to some of these people are misguided. Some of these people are just trying to make a living. You don't have to take a overly disciplined aspect on them to get what you want. This is one of the reasons why, with the Falcones and the Marconis, Bruce had a hard time with especially whatchamacallit, dang, I can't even think of his name. And they even kind of highlighted in the movies that, dang, what is his name? That Thomas and him used to be very, very close, and they were. Thomas used to be a physician, not just for the Falcones, but he was literally that physician that any mobster would go to undercover, and he would do what he needed to do to save a life. He did not care about allegiance. But also in doing that, he kind of became kind of like a made man in a way on both sides. So he could play both sides to the end. Exactly. But that's the thing, that's the aspect of what was going on. That's why I love what Alfred did for Bruce. Alfred kind of was the guy that Bruce needed because of everything that his father did. If you notice, everything when it came to the different mobs, and even with some of the stuff with the Court of Owls, was Alfred dead by the time we got to Court of Owls? I think so. But everything that Alfred did really protect Bruce from his father's legacy, because of the simple fact that he know what his father went through. He knew a lot more than what people think, and that's one of the reasons. That's one of the reasons why, as much as people think it's like, oh, you don't like Batman, you don't read it. It's like I read books every now and then dealing with Batman. I read them from time to time, but Bruce as a character is like meh. Yep. Well, boo. Well, good night to you, Wonder Woman hater. Yeah, I'm just saying that in jest. Good night to you, Wonder Woman hater. It's like, yeah, definitely a story there about me and Alpha Flight connection rocks. Yeah, I mean, we could make a Bruce Alpha Flight story, but to me, it's better if it was Thomas Wayne, because I could make the Thomas Wayne actually stick and almost make it fit into canon for both for both sides. No, he don't. No, he don't. When they redo Amalgam, we can pitch it. Well, I don't know. Yeah, Bruce will be the villain, and Thomas swoops in and fixes it. Uh, I don't see that either. Yes. Oh, so he was. Yeah. Okay. He dies in City of Bane. Okay. Issue 85. So see, boo that man. Y'all are funny. Y'all are funny here. But nevertheless, we're at our 2 hour mark here. So I want to bid you guys adieu here and try to give at least my the people in the East Coast here at least a couple of minutes here of their Saturday before they are in the future here. Everybody everybody hated Broke Bruce because it doesn't work. You know what? If everybody hated Broke Bruce, why does everybody love Absolute Batman? Just say it. Just say it. If everybody hated Broke Bruce, why does people love Absolute Batman? Yeah, exactly. Well, they're about to be in the future here in the next 2 minutes here, and I'm about to go ahead and try to grab me some more water and look at a few other things and do some more rendering here. That's the type of chips I like. Light salt, nah. I like, things like sour cream and cheddar, honey barbecue. Lightly salted is like, meh. Ranch. If it's Pringles, then I eat Pringles ranch. Pringles cheese. Lay's like sour cream and cheddar. Um, I like salt and vinegar from Lay's. Sour cream and onion is kind of like meh. It really depends on which brand. Honey barbecue, I do. I don't like I don't like Pringles pizza. But one potato chip I kind of wish that they bring back, but I don't see that happening. If you remember back in the day, when from our friends over there at the Keebler Corporation, yeah, the people who make all the cookies, they used to make a potato chip called potato skins. Those things were rocking. So if for some reason they come back, I'm on top of it. I love potato skins. Those were addicting. Yeah, because Scott Snyder and the Snyder Bros will love anything that Snyder, even though it's not Hack Snyder. Well, good night, and let's hear the theme song. Okay, we're about to play the theme song here, and barbecue gives me heartburn. Even honey barbecue? Wow. That's not a good thing. But nevertheless, see you all later. Live life, grow, and be well. And we are out of here. Hopefully next week I will show you guys what I sent out to everybody for Christmas as far as the graphic is concerned. And we got other books and stuff to talk about. And we'll go from there. Bye.